Everyone, and thanks so much for joining today. As Sam mentioned, my name is Caroline Ewens and I'm the agency lead at TikTok for Australia and New Zealand. And I'm very excited to say that TikTok are new to the IMAA family. This will be the first of 4 sessions on TikTok trends that we'll be hosting exclusively with the IMAA, with each session building on the last one where we deep dive into the world of TikTok. But without further ado, I will introduce you to Dan Connor, our brand strategy lead, who's going to take us through this exciting session this morning.
Thanks, Carol. Happy Monday, everyone. Hope you had a great weekend and are trying to stay dry wherever you're at. As mentioned, we're going to take you through a very exciting topic today, all about TikTok trends. I think I have arguably one of the best jobs here at TikTok because I get paid to dive into the platform, see what people are doing, and really kind of translate that into kind of real world insight. So I spend a lot of time both as kind of a user and a strategist in this world. We really want to kind of, give this, as Kara mentioned, as a bit of a journey to you guys, so you can kind of start to get deeper into the platform. What I hope to achieve with this is, proving to you that there's a lot more than dancing going on in this crazy little world. But really how you can kind of speak the language of trends as they exist on the platform and kind of translate those into real platform advice. First and foremost, to kind of kick it all off, though, if you haven't been in the world of TikTok, it's a pretty fun and engaging place to be. It's the world's newest entertainment platform that is ripe full of connection and a few kind of aspects about the experience that we'll dive into before we talk about what trends look like. First and foremost is this kind of full experience that people get immersed to. So sight, sound, and motion are always on in the world of TikTok, and they're very important dimensions of trends at the end of the day. It could be what something sounds like versus what something looks like when we're actually deep in the platform looking for trends, for example. Short form. So again, we know this is bite-sized. We know there's millions and millions of videos every second coming at you, which is a bit of a blessing and a curse for somebody that has to sift through videos trying to find that. But what it allows us to do, because it's short form, is really reduce the barrier to entry for users. This is what helps trends take off on the platform ultimately. And then finally, being a very community-driven platform, it does open you up to different worlds or different kind of subcultures as you move around here. So one of the things I really look at is trends that start in a certain area or context. Do they start to kind of break through the walls of others? I.e. something that happens in the world of food can easily translate into the world of beauty as the community gets their hands around it. And, that is really what makes this place special. Community entertainment platforms means people are constantly watching and then they're ready to participate when that makes sense. A few other things that really kind of, make this place very special. The For You feed. So it's where people spend the bulk of their time watching TikTok. It's the feed you get when you open up the app and you just get an endless stream of discovery. This is a great area for you to lean into yourself. Trends will always kind of break through the top of the feed there. So if you ever want to know what's trending on TikTok, you can just lean in and watch it most of the time to get a flavor of what's going on there. I mentioned before, communities will power this. So it will be a place where we'll start to connect you to other people through content. And trends are a great bridge that allow us to do that as well, too. And then finally, it's this place that allows you to kind of get inspired and bring your level of storytelling out to the world. And the reason why there is no limit to the stories that can be told is there's no limit to the number of worlds that exist on TikTok. We like to think of these as mini channels, if you will. Again, food, fashion, and I'm sure there's even frog TikTok to kind of talk about what we were just chatting about this morning, and the kind of boatloads of rain coming down here. This means that we have a huge, rich territory to be able to kind of look deeply in and find kind of contextual trends that they're starting. But really what builds the power of this on the platform, and back to that idea of kind of, being a community entertainment platform, is these little kind of moments in time really getting picked up by the community and becoming a movement. So that could be song, that could be dance, that could be everything else. But really this is the power of kind of, communities driving real change through trends. And we just wanted to give you a little bit of a flavor, a little bit of a sizzle for kind of what this feels like on the platform before we jump in there.
You didn't mean what you wrote my driver's license last week, just like we always talked about. And I know we weren't perfect, but I've never felt this way for no one. And I just can't imagine how you could be so afraid now that I'm gone. Guess you didn't need what you wanted, that's all about me. You said forever, now I drive alone past your street. You said forever, now I drive alone past your street.
So again, we've seen the power of this platform to really drive change from within, and that can be in so many different areas. You know, things that educate you, things that inspire you, even things that are just downright silly, but really oddly satisfying to watch. They all have a home here, and they all get nurtured by the community jumping onto them and really extending that entertainment forward. One of the biggest examples of this we've seen quite recently, you know, the power of a platform like TikTok to really extend the entire entertainment experience. Squid Game is something we all, or a good majority of us, probably fell victim to deep in the depths of COVID. This is a great example of, again, you know, a very borderless entertainment world that we're living in here, as new titles can transfer into markets at the speed of light. But what's really interesting around this is how the communities kind of take that and bring in a level of participation to this entertainment that was never known in the past. So some of the things we started to see every day popping up on TikTok were these little honeycombs, people wanting to see if they would survive the Squid Games, if you will, or even some kind of Aussie creators here saying, you know, Squid Game, but make it Aussie, being able to kind of, you know, innovate with that and turn it into fairy bread. These are the kinds of little things that we start to look at every single day that really start to kind of, you know, change the shape of what's going to happen and become really big in the world of TikTok. And that all begins with understanding what's trending right now. And, you know, trending now on TikTok is really, really unique because it's a very fast platform. Every time you watch TikTok, every day is going to be different. And these trends start to kind of spark up faster than any other platform and get shared faster than any other platform as well, too. But while this kind of, you know, trending plays an important role in your TikTok strategy, I just want to remind you that it's only one piece of the pie. It's not always, you know, logical to just run and try to react to everything you see there. What we want to be able to kind of start to understand is how do these signals come together to form bigger and bigger opportunities. So we think about 3 speeds of culture, if you will, in the world of TikTok. And that's exactly how we start to kind of categorize our trends here. So you've got things like nano trends, these very short viral moments that really spark and die quickly, but they can be very, very important. They can be everything everybody's talking about for a matter of days or a matter of weeks. This is the new water cooler moment, as I like to kind of tell our partners. It's what drives conversation and begins to start to actually, you know, push communities with the potential to kind of, you know, extrapolate these into something further. Once these kind of, you know, nano trends start to come to be, we start to translate these signals into what we call micro trends. So we start to see if there are very similar behaviors happening here across different communities, across different content genres, and it starts to actually cluster. What this means is it means that there's real shifts happening in the market and real opportunities for you to kind of be part of when you think around connecting with the audiences. And then ultimately, the ones that are harder to spot are these macro trends. Again, what around life is really changing around us. This could be everything from the values we have, the motivations we have. I've worked in trends and strategy a long time, and I think we always used to call these, you know, 10-year horizons. But what we've really started to see here is this acceleration of change, especially with digital platforms and kind of this, you know, an unyielding ability to kind of share ideas and participate in ideas faster than we ever could before. And you know what this really means on the agency side or on the planner side are three different ways or kind of pots of insight, if you will. Again, that macro kind of shift is something that we can partner with on together. This is all around educating and preparing for future changes, understanding what are those mindset shifts, what are those motivation shifts that people are starting to have, and something we might want to think about medium longer term when it comes to that. Micro trends are basically big opportunities that we have here today, and we'll share what they look like in the world of TikTok. But these are real consumer behaviors happening now, meaning that there's a great way for you to kind of add value and build trust by playing to those behaviors. And then these nano trends, again, these are the everyday pulse. If you want to stay real close to what's happening in culture, what's happening in TikTok, or just be kind of very topically relevant, this is a great way to kind of lean in and sustain. I will warn you, it's a bit of drinking from a fire hose vibe when it comes to this. So less is more when it comes to kind of leaning into nano trends, but specifically look at kind of nano trends in your very specific categories as well too. So ultimately, what is this going to do? You know, the macro trends are really going to kind of bring us closer to the why. Why do platforms like TikTok or different content genres happening on TikTok have a role in the lives of consumers in the first place? And those micro trends is real-time insight as to how communities are interacting with each other, with content around them. So this is all answering the how. And then again, that nano trends, just think about it when you want to be able to really be topical to the now and be able to kind of, you know, be on that pulse of culture. Not right for every brand, but certainly certain brands have a lot of success in playing with this and being able to kind of shortcut the path to relevancy on TikTok. We also know that trends are playing a bigger and bigger role in the lives of consumers. So this is a global path to purchase research study that we've actually just released last year. These are the Australian learnings here. So we've been able to kind of compare this against other platforms and against other markets. Largely across all phases of discovery, consideration, and purchase, we see an over-index versus other platforms in how they're kind of using this platform to actually integrate with products and categories. But what was really special around this is the fact that 35% of people are actually aware and driven to the platform solely for trends. They want to stay in the know as a consumer. Meaning that it's a highly sought after destination for discovery, and it's adding real value to the lives of people. So where you can play to that, where you can augment or add and build your own information around these trends, just know that there's a very high receptivity there. And more than any other market worldwide, 120 index and 1 in 4 people are actually preferring it when brands start to participate in these trends. So it's almost a way of borrowing a bit of cred, being able to kind of show that you've got really in touch with the platform that they're enjoying. And again, this is a joke people already understand. So when you kind of come in and you shatter the context of it, you're already going to kind of have that predetermined memory structure around what people are looking at, allowing brands to really kind of come up and do the job of surprising and delighting. So with that, the 3 speeds of culture, again, and 3 kind of ways for you to kind of look at the platform as you're building insight for your kind of brands and briefs. But we'll dive into a little bit of what these look like. So again, first we'll kind of dive into the nano trends. Again, these are tiny but very loud. Again, these are 15 seconds, but all of a sudden everybody's talking about it. This is the inner circle of TikTok, if you will. So playing and being part of that kind of everyday For You feed is massively important in there. And how these kind of trends come to life are very multidimensional. They manifest themselves in things like challenges. Remember that one where 2 owners would kind of put a dog in the middle of them, run opposite ways, and then see which one the dog loved more. Again, we've seen so many people kind of jump on board with that, or even reiterate that with their kids, or even inanimate objects as well too. Things like sounds and different formats all kind of come to be here as well too. Or even these kind of external news events start to get talked about in the world of TikTok and really start to get translated in new ways of storytelling to the rest of the community. Now, how this kind of comes to be, I guess what you start to see in the world of TikTok is a bit of a chain reaction. And that's what really makes these nano trends start to kind of snowball or gain traction on the platform. You might see something like an original video, again, where, someone in this example here is kind of just, mentioned this very maddening moment and slammed the door. And then you see these kind of phases of remixing that really happen here. So what you might see is, again, someone starts to change the caption of this, but keep the sound the same, or even, change the sound, but keep the visual the same, applying this same kind of, maddening moment to everyday moments that other people can relate to that might be relevant in their communities. You might even start to then see that move further through different contexts or subject matters. So, the world of automotive, being able to just slam the car door, for example, all very much in line with what that kind of original trend was doing, but just brought new context to it. And then all the way down the track here, and kind of allows a very endless permutations of these things where you can start to kind of be the inside joke, but then really extrapolate this to many, many different people and many different communities that you've seen here. So as you see the kind of shape of what these trends look like, again, you start to see a very early on hook, then you see a massive attention grab and people starting to kind of, watch this over and over again. As people kind of then, start to pile off, this is where we'll start to see, does that remixing spike come? Are people starting to kind of play and reprovoke the trend? And then ultimately that's going to kind of lead itself into a point of saturation. The amazing thing about TikTok trends, though, is things that have trended 10 years ago almost have this like nostalgic vibe to them and can kind of re-come on the platform for another episode or another series. So just because a trend has happened doesn't mean it won't get re-emulated at some point in time. Now, you can find these every single day just by going into the platform. Again, if you go on to the kind of main TikTok screen and look at the hubs up top, there will always be what is trending on there if you just want to kind of topically stay in kind of touch with what's happening on the platform. Before a more deeper and specific view of this, you can also head over to the TikTok Creative Center. This is where you can actually drive into all of these new trend discovery tools. You can search specifically for the categories or genres that you're looking at and start to see what kind of nano trends are really starting to kind of spark off. So if you're working in the world of pet care, for example, you might want to see the different kind of trends that people are talking about from a nutrition standpoint, from an enrichment standpoint, or even from, the very basics of getting a fur baby for the first time. This is an amazing tool. And again, reach out to Caro, myself, or Lauren. And if you need any kind of help or setting up on how to use this, but this is an absolute weapon to kind of, bring real charts and data into your presentations if you're trying to kind of use TikTok trends to really bring that to life. Now, as we mentioned before, all of those signals start to kind of come together, and really what I spend my time looking for are the patterns that happen in this world. These are where these micro trends really come to be. We like to refer to this as kind of the well-adjusted middle child. They're kind of, comprised of these clusters of nano trends, and they start to get built and really validated by multiple verticals or topics starting to kind of reiterate them. And again, these can start to kind of last from a time frame of months to years when it thinks around this. So this is where that kind of medium longer term strategy is so important. These are kind of these evergreen behaviors that we're really seeing on the platform. And so again, what it looks like on the back end of this, just to give you a sense of the shape and patterns we really look for, are where that kind of attention and remixing start to kind of climb and take off of. So, off the back of what we saw in nano trends, where you'd see kind of things fizzle out, when we start to see it clustering again and more communities starting to get in, play with the sounds or play with the effects, we know that something is massively there for the long haul. And it gives us a great opportunity because these things take a lot longer to die out. Again, they're much more evergreen in what they do. And these can manifest themselves in many different ways, as we mentioned, across verticals, across communities and categories. And what we are constantly doing is kind of, trying to bring more signals into these two key trends that we've really been spotting on the platform, which I'll take you through now. First being community commerce, again, the way that people are kind of interacting and kind of changing the way that people are interacting with products directly on the platform, and joyful entertainment. How people are actually starting to use different styles and aesthetics in storytelling in very engaging ways. These are all pages from the books you can steal from when you're thinking around, adding real value to relevant insight on the platform. So the first thing is all around community commerce. What this is, it's kind of this blend of joyful, creative, and viral commerce that's all powered by creators on the platform. It really has allowed creators to get famous on the platform, and certainly many brands and products. Ultimately, it takes a great product and a real authentic reaction to kind of start that chain reaction here. And what we've kind of started to analyze here is that word of mouth and authenticity is actually what is the special aspect of making these things continue to sustain themselves. Things like the hashtag TikTok made me buy it is fundamentally changing how people kind of discover and how they can kind of access these kinds of real reviews or digital word of mouth when they're looking at kind of, getting into a specific product or category. And there's the weirdest things that really come up to be here. One of my favorites is Book Talk. Again, who knew that spending a bunch of time on a mobile platform could actually do a great thing for reading? But it's one of our kind of most engaging, spaces when it comes to community commerce. This idea that you can share 15-second perspectives on books really drive people to kind of get in, what is trending here, and it can really start to kind of change what people are thinking around in terms of book clubs. And that sort of thing. This is what we mean around being able to kind of, apply this to a very specific genre or vertical in this space. Second, which is probably one of the biggest and most obvious places for this, is beauty talk. So there's nothing more relevant than seeing this kind of, authentic enthusiasm when you find an amazing product on here. But what's really interesting is actually brands listening to the kind of consumers here, being able to hear their side of the conversation and their side of their experience, and actually taking that into to actually things like product development and even product naming. This just means that, I guess brands and products are very in tune with the communities they're serving, and they're willing to kind of open up that feedback loop as it comes to play here. And then finally, one of the greatest mysteries is why people want to watch other people cleaning on the internet, but it's a massive part of everything we do here. And some of these massive products and kind of companions or hacks to making the world a cleaner place has really kind of treaded this kind of, fence of being entertainment versus education here. But nonetheless, people find these awesome little products, whether they be existing, on the shelves of Woolworths, shelves of Kohl's, or even just on Amazon, for you to kind of create a direct shopper activation around these things. And again, there's no fighting the realness of these reviews. I think that's one of the biggest shifts we're seeing here is, people not or understanding that a lot of brands and experience have hid behind that kind of faceless 5-star review. Nothing is going to be more real than seeing someone's true emotion come here, and then also see that true emotion get passed on to other people and get them to share their stories as well too. So that moves us into kind of our next area. If community commerce is all around, the stories people are sharing and how that kind of impacts buying, this is also more in the line of, what around the content trends are we seeing that really starts to kind of reshape the value equation that digital can have. And, again, you might think of, thousands and thousands of videos being kind of the antithesis of being able to kind of calm you down and stress you down. But the reality is there's a lot of great trends within this that really start to kind of shape the entire content experience on a whole. One of the things we've seen here is through the lens of new aesthetics that start to kind of get applied across different trends and stories in the platform here. Cottage Core is a great one around this. This is that kind of, warm, feel good, kind of back to simpler times kind of vibe where you're seeing all of these, frilled flower dresses and picnic baskets to farmhouse aesthetics. But this has become a very common and sought after aesthetic that people are watching on TikTok, one that can start to kind of translate into different styles of storytelling. Because again, people are coming here wanting to watch stuff like this. So again, think about it as borrowing the context of these very popular genres on the platform. Second to that are things like ASMR. So, sight, sound, and motion up close, under a microscope, if you will. This is that oddly satisfying experience of watching things get, perfectly sliced, perfectly cut, or just that very up close sound that kind of sends shivers down your spine. People love to watch this over and over again. So where possible, and you can steal, these kinds of tricks when building your videos, it's just another way to draw people in. I think we're all hardwired to want to pay attention to this stuff, which is why it's quite evergreen on the platform. And then, as we mentioned before, clean talk and the example of it is a great kind of combination of the two of the things here. So you've almost transformed this into something like ASMR by seeing these kind of, before and after shots, or really being able to bring to life what squeaky clean sounds like. And again, these are just all mechanisms you can kind of use to be able to make your kind of videos carry more entertainment value, because it's what people are looking after here. This is just the tip of the iceberg, by the way. This manifests itself in many, many categories. And that's, again, where the Creative Center can really help you dive deep into those. And then that leads us to the kind of bigger picture, if you will. As all of these micro trends are starting to kind of reshape the world around us, this is around preparing for the future changes that the consumers are signaling us are kind of on the horizon, especially in the world of and platform of TikTok here. So 3 of the big macro trends that we really would love for you to kind of, keep deeply seated in the brain, and ones that will kind of unfold in the kind of follow-up sessions here. One's around storytelling, where this kind of idea of main character energy is really coming at the forefront of everything. We'll dive into kind of the changing shape of the creator ecosystem as well, too, around how aspirational influencers aren't the only ones that have a role here, that people are actually looking for more, similarity and relatability in the voices that they're connecting to on platforms like this. And then finally, a look into community as well, too. As we know that actually these communities are the ones really driving change. I'd like to say that you can just come up and make a trend on TikTok, but what makes a trend happen on TikTok is actually the community getting behind it, playing with it, iterating it, and sharing it. So this is our kind of, call to arms for creating real value for the communities. So they'll want to play with it, and they can honestly have a reason to share these stories with the people they're connected to on the platform as well, too. So what do these kind of look like? First in the kind of storytelling aspect of it, this is all about main character energy. So I think the biggest shift that we've seen here is that kind of idea of you telling the story from your POV. You might see this stylistically from the way people shoot things, i.e., watching something happen and basically saying, this is the view of somebody making lunch, for example, from where I sit in the world. But this is all about putting the I into the meme and being able to actually have a new way to self-express on this. And this is really, really important, because this is a massive and enduring side of TikTok. Is there's not only one perspective of the stories out there. Sometimes things that are happening in the world might be able to actually be reflected on from a different perspective, from a brand even. And that's where you can kind of use this idea of, this meme culture evolve and main character energy to really drive what that looks like. The second bit is beyond demographics. I think the one thing that we've learned here is, don't judge a consumer by the demographic band they fall in. The reality is mindsets and motivation is really the kind of true insight when it comes here, because TikTok is very much a behavioral platform where what you're watching decides what you'll see next. Actually paying attention to how people are watching and curating towards those entertainment experiences is what's going to bring more value. So again, instead of thinking as somebody maybe, women 35 to 45, you might want to lean into the kind of content genres that those people or sub-targets are actually building, using hashtags to target to get to them, because it's just a new way that you can actually shortcut targeting on the platform. Again, when it really kind of comes to be is especially when you start to think beyond those surface level demographics, if you want to kind of add true value to this. Ultimately, we know that, tracking and cookies and performance is changing all around us. So the way I kind of talk about this as a planner is there is a whole new set of signals being released before our very eyes. They look a lot different, they feel a lot different, but nonetheless, they're very human and behavioral. So things that we should be paying attention to as brands as well. On the community side of things, this really is coming to life, some of this idea of, communal well-being, not just me, but being able to help people on their journeys as well, too. It's also kind of rethinking what we mean by self-care. So I might just say this exists beyond beauty. I think we have a very woke community around, the importance of mental health, collective healing, or even being able to kind of use, socialization and connection as a way to kind of, drive therapy and happiness for those that it makes sense for. But this is all around being able to be part of the community, add real value back to the others on there through many of the types of kind of humor and education on here. I think there's a much big of a call out here. I think that we all know that it is a very trying time that the world is kind of living through right now. You've got people that are very impacted directly by what's going on. It might not be the best time to be talking about meditation, for example. So I think just playing close to kind of the tones of the world we live in is also a real kind of important part when thinking around listening to the communities before you talk. From a creator standpoint, this is a big aspect that has been really unique to kind of what we've had on the platform here. I guess the rule here is no gatekeeping. This is around showing people what you've got behind the scenes and sharing knowledge from every aspect of your life. And so what this means for creators is they can open these doors for you. They're there to help you create these kind of, relationships with the people that they have partnerships with on the platform. And you can steal from their styles and how they're actually opening up different parts of their lives. Again, we see this in a kind of commercial sense as well, too, being able to kind of, open the doors to the factory and show how it's actually made. It's just creating a new, way or portal to bring people in. And again, you can use a diverse set of voices to really start to bring this to be. But unlike, influencers on other platforms, this is all around how the audiences can actually start to interact with it as well, too. That is the number one thing we talk around with our creator kind of thing here, is being able to add true value back to the audiences you're serving and open up ways for them to participate because they are highly engaged when they do so. And what we're starting to kind of see because of that, all of these communities coming together, starting to trust each other, is that this has real power to accelerate social movements and drive real good change in the kind of world here. All it takes basically is this extreme word of mouth, extreme display of kind of participation and iteration and mimicry that happens on the platform to kind of make these moments become movements on the platform. Again, think of this a bit like an ice bucket challenge for ALS on steroids. This audience is very open to kind of seeing, talking, and being engaged with these social issues as well, too, and lending their creativity to a cause here. So we also spend a lot on kind of TikTok for good here and really understanding that kind of CSR side of it. If you guys are thinking any kind of purpose-led campaigns or social responsibility campaigns as well, too, the kind of community is so powerful in being able to get those ideas off the ground there. So ultimately, that is our kind of view of the kind of, speeds of culture in the world of TikTok and the language we use. So if you start to see this kind of popping up in reports that we'll share, or again, we can kind of, work with you directly if you reach out to one of us on kind of what these might look like specifically in your world. But again, I might just reiterate how these things might come to be. Something could start as small as just a little nano trend, like someone sharing great product that they bought here. Here we've got these airy leggings, which are very TikTok famous. Everybody wants them. They sold out just from people buying them, sharing that they bought them, and then that kind of idea of community commerce really started to snowball into something. That's what then it becomes a micro trend. We saw this happen across multiple products. People started to do the exact same thing with beauty products, or everyone went off and made feta pasta. It's just this idea that when people see new reasons to use categories and caveats, a product is really, really good. There's a high propensity that will take on and start to get nurtured by the community here. Again, what this means is it might even start to be reflecting these kinds of things directly in your e-com stores, or being able to kind of, even react and adapt these things into kind of product messaging or even product formulation, if that makes sense. The swell is big enough. And then this starts to, again, translate into the bigger shifts that we're starting to see here. So, from a community standpoint, we think that is the biggest kind of, macro shift that we're all starting to see here. This newfound association with community in new places, but also just to be part of something that is a bit more niche and a bit more real and contextual to you. COVID has definitely accelerated this. Us being locked away for the last 2 years has meant we've lived and leaned on digital communities more than we ever have in the past. But what we're going to start to kind of see more and more so is how those communities really start to kind of repeat the cycle here, drive new nano trends, and ultimately kind of build new evergreen behaviors directly on the platform. So again, just to kind of reiterate here, what you want to start to kind of understand here is, how do we prepare for those future changes? What are the things that, communities and people around us that we're trying to serve here from a comms and business standpoint are really starting to change? Micro chains are things we know a lot about today. So again, please hit us up for all of that great insight. We can teach you how to make things very successful on the platform by playing to kind of, real behaviors that are there. And we're starting to kind of really build a great degree of codification on this as well too. So we can start to better our strike rates on being successful parts of the community versus just showing up and trying to advertise to them like audiences. And then finally, the nano trends. This is just your pulse. I would say stay on this. If you work in a certain category, set some alerts or, run over to the creative center every once in a while and just see what's there. There's great charts, there's great data and great examples that can really help you kind of, paint a clearer picture of the change that's really happening around this. And TikTok trends is a long-term bet for us guys. As I mentioned, we have a whole team on this globally and locally that is kind of really driving this forward. What we've kind of hoped to achieve today is really bring you into our world, get you to see how we're talking about trends and what opportunities there are there, because we know that all of these moments are turning into massive movements, and those movements can also move products and categories as we know as well. But the three kind of follow-up sessions that Kara mentioned that we'll allude to shortly, the one around kind of self-expression, which we call reframing the protagonist. We'll dive into all around how TikTok has kind of democratized creativity and given people that option to become the main character in their own story. We'll then dive into this new culture of community. How are communities shaping and interacting with each other across many different aspects of the platform? And how are they educating and entertaining and co-creating together? And then finally, this next generation influence, this idea of moving from a world of influence into kind of, creator-led entertainment value. So it's not just me standing up there with a bottle of shampoo anymore. It's about being able to share my authentic experience, whatever that might be or whatever I'm known for, or even being able to kind of just change what the set looks like. I don't think these new things all need to show up like ads, especially when you're looking for a very authentic and honest review. People want to know what the product feels like, what it smells like, and they can rely on the community to kind of share that experience as it extrapolates as well. So really looking forward to kind of keeping on that journey with all of you guys. And thanks so much for listening to us today. I'll pass it over to Kara, who will kind of take you through what the next part of the journey looks like.
Great. Thank you so much, Dan. And I love that point that you made about how powerful the TikTok community is and that they're lending their creativity to a cause. And to bring us home, a few things I wanted to share today to get you excited about the year ahead. First up is TikTok trends. As I mentioned already, today's session was part of a 4-part education series around TikTok trends, and there'll be the opportunity to join us for more of these sessions across the year as we build on the knowledge from today and learn about future insights. Next up is the TikTok Accelerator Program. So you may have already heard about the TikTok Accelerator Program across our socials like LinkedIn, newsletters, but essentially we're calling all emerging industry leaders who are looking to accelerate their career to enter now. And the entries close on the 9th of March. So please get in fast. Next is the research and reports. So TikTok has launched the TikTok What's Next report for Australia 2022, which provides insights into culture drives on TikTok in Australia for the year ahead. And after this, I'll share a link to download the Australia 22 report today. So stay tuned for more. And then we have our TikTok for Business newsletter. So the monthly edition of Let's Talk Business provides the latest news, insights, and updates coming out of Australia, TikTok Australia, New Zealand. And I'd encourage you to subscribe to keep up with the latest news from us. And I'll also be sharing a link with you post-event. And one last thing I wanted to mention that isn't on the slide today is education. But we listened to your feedback last year in the survey, and TikTok is committed to prioritizing education and the enablement of our partners around the platform. So more to come on that. I'm going to share these links with everyone post the call today, but please feel free to email me if you have any questions about today's session or just in general about getting started on TikTok. But thank you so much again to Sam, the IMAA, and everyone who took the time to join us today.